I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas,
where we talk about all of our favorite hauntings and scary movies.
So in the wise words of Bodies, 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 today's episode is a podcast about hanging out with your smartest and funniest friends. So today we have special guests from the podcast Paranormal in Pennsylvania. We have Sarah and David joining us.
Hello.
Hey guys, we are super excited to have you back, and because Sarah and David have a spooky podcast, we decided to get extra spooky with it too. So for this episode, we are going to be talking about haunted film sets. So before we get too deep into it, Sarah, David, do you want to give us a quick rundown of your podcast and where to find it?
Sure. So we post every Thursday on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, basically wherever you get podcasts. And it is about history and hauntings of various locations, a few which you guys have accompanied us to, which has been really fun.
It is a super great podcast. I'm super excited that we've gotten to go on your show and that you've gotten to go on ours, and we look forward to everything you guys are doing in the future. So for this episode, like we said, we're going to be talking about haunted film sets. So we're going to get started by talking about Poltergeist. Are you guys familiar with the Poltergeist curse?
No.
So the Poltergeist curse was supposedly the cause of a number of unfortunate accidents and tragic deaths surrounding the film. So Poltergeist is a 1982 horror film, and what started people think the Poltergeist curse was that on set they used real skeletons. So at the end of the movie, there is this plot point that the house was built on a graveyard on top of human remains. So what's fun about that is that when they filmed, they used real human remains instead of fake skeletons, which I think is kind of ironic given the plot of the movie.
And where do they get these? Like, where can you procure 100 human skeletons for a movie set?
It's a great question, but the guy who did the special effects for the film, Craig Reardon, said that it's normal to use real skeletons, or like it's not unusual to use them. But I don't know if I buy that. Like, that feels...
When I die, I want you guys to donate my body.
Not to science, but to film.
Yes. You can take my organs if you can, and then body's going to film. Hey, Spielberg wrote this film. I'm sure everyone whose skeleton was in this movie, like, family's definitely going to brag. Be like, I was in two legends. A horror legend directed it, Tobe Hooper, and then Spielberg wrote it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I just feel like in the movie, the families thought that the bodies were moved, and so I feel like in real life, they probably thought the bodies were going somewhere else too. I just feel like there's a lot of parallels here that are uncomfy. But that was apparently the start of what, like, caused the Poltergeist curse, according to legend. But there were numerous hauntings, quote unquote, that occurred during filming. So Jo Beth Williams, who plays Diane, which is the mom, would often come home to find her paintings and anything she hung on the wall, like askew, tilted, fallen on the ground, and she would fix them, go to work, come home, and they'd be messed up again. And so she was worried that someone was warning her not to do the film. And apparently, once filming was over, this was no longer a problem.
That's really freaky. I always feel like things that follow you home hit differently. You know, it's one thing if something's happening to you on set, but to get home and have it continue to be haunting you, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, is there no safe space?
Yeah, and I don't know if I was if I knew my skeletal remains were being used in a movie purely to save cost, that might rub me the wrong way if I didn't knowingly donate my body.
Yeah, I would certainly follow her home and take her shit off the wall.
Now, legit question though, like, I would think human remains would cost more than fake skeletons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what do I know?
That is a great point. Where are they getting these discounted human skeletons from?
I'm gonna have to also say I watched this movie recently and it was great. I'd seen it a bunch when I was a kid, and I will say those skeletons were gooey looking, and I might think that this was all worth it.
Any hauntings were worth it?
The hauntings was worth it, other than the death. That's sad.
Yeah, I was going to say
I don't know if that is.
There's a lot of death associated with the poltergeist.
Those skeletons look pretty good.
Side, right? Like you're not on the receiving end.
Yeah, well, I received a sweet experience watching that movie, so.
Great point, honey. Well, other people on set also expressed that they had experienced some sort of hauntings here or there. Dominique Dunn, who plays the eldest daughter, Dana, once witnessed a bookshelf tip and toss books around the room.
On set?
Yeah. So again, it's like shit could just fall over, but tossing books feels too much to me in a movie already about ghosts.
Yeah, and I wonder if these people reach a point where they're like, you know what, I'm done. What's their threshold?
Mm-hmm.
For
they're actors. I'm sure they've seen crazier things than a couple floating books.
And some of them did 3 movies, so apparently they did not hit their threshold.
Worth it for the money.
Well, I wonder,
it's a paycheck.
It's cast, but also I imagine the crew as well. And everybody has their breaking point, but I wonder if it is different because when you're an actor, you're getting paid far more than a crew member.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I wonder too. Like, that paycheck, that feels worth it. Like, if my art falls off the wall or a bookshelf falls down, fuck it. Like, that paycheck's probably worth fixing a couple pieces of, a couple frames.
I'll also say on the sadder side of things, let's think about the things people go through just to get a slot in Hollywood, just to book one movie. Come on, for real, a bookshelf falling over is peanuts compared to what some of these actors have been through or put themselves through, especially women in the industry. Actually, I would that goes both ways, not just women.
Mm-hmm.
But
for the sequel, Craig T. Nelson had complained about an eerie and unsettling vibe of the cave that they were filming in on set. And so Will Sampson, who was an actor but also an experienced shaman, inspected the set for negative energy and decided that it was coming from prop skeletons, which was then when they learned that those skeletons as well were real human remains. So Sampson asked if he could exorcise the set, and he received permission, and he did so, and then all of the creepy shit stopped.
But what are the odds of that? What are the odds that you have a shaman on your cast?
I know.
You don't know
what to do in this situation.
Right.
I know. And he was immediately like, here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wylan. On the set of the first movie, Oliver Robbins, who played the brother Robbie, was nearly strangled to death by the clown.
What?
That just sounds like poor practice on their part.
So the clown prop malfunctioned.
Yeah.
So when it jumps on him and chokes him, it started really choking him because the mechanics broke. I think the arms tightened too much. So he started to say oh, I'm having trouble breathing. I can't breathe. And they thought that he was ad-libbing. They were like, wow, he's thriving. He's doing great. But then his face started to change color because he was choking. And so they had to run in and grab the clown.
That's incredible. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, that one's good. So not quite haunted, but maybe. I mean, who's...
Yeah.
That's what you get for having creepy clowns.
Terrifying.
Or just stunt malpractice.
The last 2... What was that?
That's a free capital T for trauma. You're
yes.
choked out, but it's actually choking you out.
Yeah, I would never be able to own another toy ever again.
Especially not the clown ones.
I don't think I'd want a clown one, period, anyway. So this would certainly do it. The last 2 occurrences are really sad. They're less spooky and more just fucked up. So Dominique Dunn, as we stated, who played the eldest daughter, Dana, had been in an abusive relationship with a John Thomas Sweeney, who was a sous chef from 1981
Wait.
until breaking up with him.
Last name is Sweeney?
Yes, last name Sweeney.
Could be a
Probably not spelled
relative.
the same.
Probably. Sorry, go on.
It is. It's spelled the same.
Yes, it's spelled the same. So they were together from 1981 until early October 1982 when she broke up with him due to the abuse. Some examples of the abuse include an incident on September 26, 1982, right before they broke up, where he grabbed her by the throat, threw her on the floor, and began to strangle her, which was then interrupted by a friend that they had in the home.
Wow.
On October 30th, 1982, a few weeks after they'd broken up, she was in her home rehearsing for a miniseries that she was working on with another actor, David Packer. He showed up, Sweeney, the ex-boyfriend, showed up at her home. She spoke to him through a locked door, but eventually went outside to speak to him. And they began to argue. Packer said that he heard smacking sounds, 2 screams, and a thud. He called 911. He also phoned a friend and told him that if he was found dead, John Sweeney was his killer. Dunn was transported to a hospital in Los Angeles where she was placed on life support, and she never regained consciousness, and her cause of death was strangulation.
Oh my gosh. How old was she?
She was... You'd think I should know that, shouldn't I? I think she was pretty young when she died. She was 23.
Yeah, because she plays a
22. Yeah, she was 22.
What a shame.
And then, so did he end up going to jail for it, or was he found guilty?
I believe he was only found guilty of manslaughter, which
Okay.
was a huge deal at the time because that's more than it was. Definitely should have been.
Also, I didn't know we were
second.
going true crime route with this. Holy shit.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think that's definitely the saddest and the heaviest one that we're going to go into detail with.
Are you sure? So this next one's the one I knew about. I didn't know about any of this stuff, but I knew about Heather.
So there is another death associated with the Poltergeist curse, and that is the death of Heather O'Rourke. So Heather is... We're here.
Carol Ann.
She's little Carol Ann.
And she's in all 3 movies.
She is.
And I have
in
seen all
3
3 movies. For whatever reason.
So she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and she was prescribed cortisone injections for treatment while she was filming Poltergeist 3. After filming on January 31st, 1988, she began having flu-like symptoms, and the following morning she collapsed in her home and was rushed to the hospital. While en route to the hospital, she suffered from cardiac arrest, but they were able to resuscitate her and restart her heart. But when she got to the hospital, it was discovered that she had intestinal stenosis and then went into emergency surgery, which she survived, but while in the recovery room, went into cardiac arrest again. They performed CPR for over 30 minutes, but she was pronounced dead. So the cause of death was ruled as congenital stenosis of the intestine complicated by septic shock. So Sarah, obviously you are science and you are familiar with stomach and intestinal diseases more so than anyone else on this call. So what are your thoughts on that? Just like first impressions.
Yeah, first impression is it sounds pretty ridiculous. I mean, when you said she had Crohn's disease and then she had cardiac arrest, I was like, what? Like
those.
And
those
she
don't
was
go.
only 12 when she died.
Yes.
that, I would say it would be more common that it's worse in kids, but
Okay.
I guess it depends on the course of the disease. But typically, the symptoms can get shoved off for a lot of reasons with kids of like, oh, I'm having a lot of stomach pain. Oh, whatever. But it sounds like it is 0 to 100. And I do research specifically with Crohn's disease. So that seems
Yes, exactly.
pretty extreme.
Yeah. I remember learning about this like when I was younger, and it always kind of seemed fishy. And I feel like the way people talked about it was they were like, thought that there was some kind of like foul play, but I never really heard more beyond that.
With the intestinal stenosis, is that basically like a bowel obstruction?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think
that's what I had thought when I looked it up. Yeah, that's what I thought when I was looking it up, that's basically what that was, which is really interesting because, like, how long had she been living with that for? Or, like, where did that come from in a 12-year-old? I feel like you don't hear about like, bowel obstructions.
I mean, it could happen as a complication of the Crohn's, but it just, again, it's not like you have a bowel obstruction and all of a sudden you have cardiac arrest. It'd be like, I would think.
You'd be suffering for a while.
Like, it's going to build up. It definitely seems fishy.
Yeah, a physician the head of gastroenterology at the University of California, Irvine, at the time, Daniel Hollander, said that her death was distinctly unusual as she lacked prior symptoms of the bowel defect. He said, I would have expected a lot of digestive difficulties throughout her life and not just to have developed a problem all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's not something you get overnight. Like, Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. So it's not like you go to sleep and your immune system's working great and you wake up and all of a sudden your immune system is not working and is attacking your intestinal lining. That's just not going to happen. That definitely sounds paranormal.
Yeah. There's like a lot of the articles will be like the mysterious death, but doesn't seem like there's much to be said beyond that it was weird.
Yeah.
From what I have read.
Pretty much what I shared is the majority of what I could find on it.
And she only ever did 3 films, and they were Poltergeist, Poltergeist 2 The Other Side, and Poltergeist 3. So, like, that was it.
I mean...
And then some TV as well.
With 2 of the family members, the main family members dead, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's 2 of the main 5 characters.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It is really sad.
And then Mom was also experiencing shit. Craig T. Nelson said he felt something on the set of the second. Oh, and brother got choked by a clown. So they all at some point, the main 5 felt something or tragically passed.
Me.
So that is...
Just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah. So that is the Poltergeist and the Poltergeist curse. So when we think about the movie, I guess the question is, how are viewings of the movie impacted by knowing about some of this behind the scenes info?
I already said mine. Now when I see the skeletons, I think that scene's even cooler. It's like,
I feel like it makes the scene that much scarier.
No.
Not scarier, not cooler.
No, I just think it reminds me that it was definitely done in like the 70s and 80s. It's like, how are you using real skeletons? And then I guess not necessarily cooler, but scarier that real stuff was happening. This movie holds a special place in my nightmares because The Ring terrified me so much when I was little and it came out. I already hated TVs. So to watch a movie like Poltergeist, it's like, kids these days will never know. They'll never know what like this screen on a TV can do in fear.
The terror and that static coming through.
When she said, they're here, I was like, fuck this bitch. I can't. You are scaring the shit out of me, child.
And you had never seen it. And I told you for years that I thought you'd like it. And I liked it as a kid and I hadn't seen it. And I rewatched with you and I was like, damn. I was like, they really don't make them like they used to. Was like how I felt. Like I really enjoyed this movie. And I already knew that there was that she had died and some other stuff happened. I don't think I would let this hurt my enjoyment. If anything, like the haunting element makes it even more fun.
I think it definitely increases the intrigue a little bit.
Yes.
I think
the deaths do not make it more fun.
No,
I should clarify.
No. I think they definitely make it sad. And it's like you have to appreciate what you.
Yes, and they do give the films kind of this weird like aura though to them, which I've always felt that way about Carol Ann's character. So. Overall,
Great movie. Matt, speed theme. Do you have any?
Oh, I don't know. It's a family theme, but I have not. I watched it weeks ago.
Family, in the wise words of Fast and the Furious. Okay, perfect. In our last episode where we talked about like a couple movies, Matt got upset at the end that he didn't talk about themes, and he like panic rushed through them. So I figured I had to give you a space for that.
I'll do another panic rant. Movies are not horny enough anymore, and this one is, and I appreciate it. It's in like horny might not be the right word, but it's like there's actual like sexual tension and attraction between the husband and wife. And it's like, it's still just Craig T. Nelson. He's just like some kind of weird looking middle-aged dude. And it doesn't matter. Like he has more sex appeal than Tony Stark does in the whole MCU. So what the fuck? Like bring sex appeal back in movies.
Thank you.
Yeah, you agree? Am I right?
I mean, yes, bring sex appeal back in movies. No, but you agree about it with this movie. But I didn't agree that this movie was particularly
There's like so much like, I don't know. It's not just
love.
There's like love. See. There's like, at least it's not sterile.
Sure. Yeah. They were like smoking weed and like
giggling in bed together. And I was like, there's some tension.
Instead of in your intro where you say in the words of bodies, 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 you should say in the words of Matt Hanna, bring sex appeal back in movies.
For real.
That's the new intro.
Yeah.
What was that other quote that you said recently to...
Oh, I have a quote that Anna made art of that was, art is about things that happen, was my quote.
Like, what the fuck was he talking about?
It's like art in the
anyway. Yeah, except art is about things that happen, which is 40 times dumber. So let's move into our next haunted film set, which I know you are bringing us the deets for. But we are talking about The Omen, which was directed by Richard Donner, written by David Seltzer, and it came out in 1976.
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. I really thought that there was only one version, and it was the 2000s version. So imagine my surprise when I was like, yeah, we'll watch The Omen. I thought I'd seen it, and then I was like, oh, there's two. So we did watch the old one. And I gotta say, my beef with old movies, hot take, I guess, is the sound mixing is so bad. Like, the music is so loud, and the voices are so quiet. And it's like, I can't even...
Where did you watch it?
What'd you say?
I said, where did you watch it?
At my house.
Like, was there a streaming service?
Yeah, it was Hulu.
I'm not sure what it was.
I watched it on Hulu, too.
Oh, yeah, I'm just
Sometimes
curious.
Some of the streaming services have particularly bad sound mixing, but I do feel like that is a consistent problem across the board anymore. Like, you see a movie in theaters and you're getting the ideal experience, and then whatever the fuck you're getting at home, it's not designed for you to be watching it in your particular apartment or house or whatever.
The sound mixing is on streaming services is like an epidemic right now.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Like, this is I was just reading about this today, so that's when you were saying this, I was giggling. Yeah, it's a problem that everyone is having, that the sound mixing is just shitty, and it's why more people are using subtitles now to watch. And you know that I'm pretty anti-subtitle unless you need it because you can't hear, or you need it because you don't understand the language. Mm-hmm. But I kind of understand people's gripes now because they're right. The sound mixing does suck. So I'm curious. I doubt the Omen's original sound mixing was shit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it clearly just is on whatever it is now.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The music was so loud.
Right.
Matt was changing the volume every scene.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You can't even get scared because you're so worried about adjusting the volume so that it's the correct level and not breaking your eardrums with the music sequence.
But there were also points where it felt like the music didn't match the energy. Like they're playing.
The movie in general was just a mess.
I've never really liked this movie, so
yeah. So there are hauntings.
It's fine.
So
yeah. So what are the hauntings?
Yes. So there's 3 categories I broke it down into. So the first is lightning hauntings. So this starts in 1975 when they were filming the movie. And there's 4 different lightning strikes associated with the movie, which is statistically very improbable. So lead actor Gregory Peck was on a plane to London, and lightning actually struck the plane. which is crazy and terrifying. I don't know what you do in that situation. I guess nothing.
If I'm not
That's
mistaken,
not a good
planes
time.
do get struck more often than you think, but they're just built to handle a lightning strike.
Well, I don't know. That was 50 years ago.
That's true. Like 50 years. That's
Or
true.
I don't know
40?
at that point
Whatever.
when you dial it back 50 years if that makes the difference or not. Surely, engineers would account for that, though.
Okay, but let's say this one. Okay, so it happens once. It's an off chance.
Yeah, okay.
Second, within the next few weeks, one of the writers, David Seltzer's plane, was also struck by lightning. Very statistically improbable. So we have 2. Now third, there was, while filming in Rome, when they do like the scenes when they visit what's it called? The hospital and everything, lightning narrowly missed striking producer Harvey Bernhard. So that's 3, and that's already statistically improbable.
Being struck by lightning certainly is, but a quick Google shows that most commercial airplanes are struck by lightning once or twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but the likelihood of being struck by lightning period is 1 in 15,300. And on average, 270 people in the US are struck per year. So for 3 of those people to be part of one film is, even if it's likely that a plane might get struck, I feel like that still feels significant and spooky, especially with a movie where like there is that whole storm lightning scene. I don't love that.
And there's even
That's insane. That number, you're really likely to be struck by lightning.
Yeah, right.
It's more likely than I
15 in your life?
15,000.
Oh yeah, 1 in 15,000. That's 1 in 15K. That's high.
still pretty common.
High likelihood. Yeah. What the fuck?
It's pretty common, but for 3 dudes.
Well, and there's a 4th
That's
because executive producer Mace Newfield was also on a plane that was struck by lightning. And this is all in the time of filming. So it's all really crunched together as well. And I think
that's
4
crazy.
times, come on.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So next category is spooky animal activity. And anybody that's seen the movie knows there are dogs throughout the movie. And then they also visit a weird drive-through safari. But starting with the Rottweilers, they were used to portray the hellhounds that are protecting Damien throughout the movie. We see them first at his birthday party. And the Rottweilers were, quote, professionally trained, right? They're professional working dogs on the movie set. But they would often turn and actually attack their trainers during filming, almost as if they were possessed. One attack seriously injured stuntman Terry Walsh, despite preparations and despite protective equipment. So it was a pretty significant attack. And again, these are all trained dogs and stuntmen. And people that worked with the dogs said it seemed like something was possessing or irritating the dogs on the film set because they would be fine once they left the film set.
That's what I was going to ask. So, outside of filming for this movie, they didn't have any, reported behavioral challenges?
Nope. Interesting. Yeah, I think at first I was like, this just sounds like a guy who was claiming these are really well-trained dogs. Turns out dogs aren't well-trained. But maybe they didn't like being on camera.
But if they're on, that was their job, right? So this wouldn't have been their first movie.
They're a little camera shy. I get that.
But they're not.
I get it too. We've all been
that
there.
They were attacking people.
Oh crap! You did say that. So, but yeah,
they were so tense from filming that once their scenes ended, they just had to release it.
They're really just some divas,
Yeah.
Diva dogs. I get it. We saw what Christian Bale did during Terminator Salvation. No one knows what
I know what you're talking about. There was the footage of his audio of his on-set meltdowns.
Hot take: he was in the right.
Bruh,
I've listened to the audio. He was in the right.
I haven't, but I'm still
He freaked out on some light dude for doing something silly while he was performing. It's funny.
Okay, well, that's not his job to correct someone, and you
watch
don't have
the video.
To be
You
a
haven't
dick
watched the
about
video.
It. Okay, I'm just saying you don't need to be an asshole about it. Christian Bale.
He was in the right. I listened.
But he gives me the wrong vibes.
Everyone go look it up. It's very funny. Family Guy did a really good gag for it too.
All right, slow your roll, Buster.
Not that I really even care about that show or watched it in a decade, but the gag was good.
So the dogs.
Yeah. So the dogs weren't the only animal, though. So again, the weird drive-through safari scene where they're driving through.
What the actual fuck?
Right? Like, is that real?
Why?
Was that like? Could you drive through zoos like that?
I mean,
I have.
yeah, there's.
I have at the Six Flags Safari.
Yeah, with Six Flags near us. The Six Flags I got my season pass to.
What?
There aren't drive-through zoos.
You can camp there now too.
In the safari?
Yeah, so like the monkeys when we were little. Yeah, when we were little, like the monkeys would jump on our car.
Okay, I thought this was like a movie world thing. I don't know where I've been, but not.
No, I only thought it was weird because I was like, why do we need this plot point? Like, this is just a stupid plot point for the movie. But I was fine with the monkeys on the car.
Yeah, I think once you showed like the giraffes were really terrified of Damien, like I don't think you needed to take it further. Be like, all right, now let's go see the baboons, and then like try to kill him.
Wait, but that scene was kind of cool.
Well,
those baboons were scary.
That's what this is about, actually. The baboons were all very calm prior to filming. And then when they started filming, they reacted more violently than they expected. So many people thought that the terror on Damien and the mom's face was just really incredible acting, but they were actually really terrified to the point that trainers needed to step in the middle of filming the scene to pull the baboons off the car. So again, it's like these animals are reacting in a way that's atypical for a trained movie set animal.
I really got to give the baboons props. They really committed to the bit.
They committed.
Like that was
that's what I was going to say.
The acting was amazing. 10 out of 10. All the awards to the baboons and to the Rottweilers.
And then after filming, when they were, wrapping that scene and taking care of the animals to take them back to wherever, one of the large cats actually ate one of the zookeepers that was on staff.
What?
And again, okay, to say, a few of the dogs were upset. Okay, they're baboons, so they're vicious. Okay, it's a large cat. It's happening in every scene with animals, and it's clear that something is irritating them to the point that someone lost their life.
You know what?
I think you should have led with that one. Holy
she
shit.
was building up to it.
Yeah.
It's called burying the lead. What cat? It just ate a trainer?
Yeah.
Or zookeeper?
It started biting the trainer, and the trainer died.
Holy shit.
Oh, so it just like mauled the trainer to death? Or like nobody knew the trainer was in there and he got feasted on?
No, I think it just like bit the trainer and like broke its spine or something.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Like, if a lion can break a hyena's back with one bite, like, yeah, humans are not a challenge.
I once saw the video, I don't know why I saw this, of that guy that climbed into the cheetah cage in India, and immediately that cheetah snapped his neck in like a half a second. Yeah. It was crazy. Like just right up, it was so quick. So I imagine it does not go. Yeah, you'll mess with big cats.
Yeah.
Once kitty's over like 200 pounds, no. Not a chance. Even if
kitties at 100 pounds are scary.
Still kind of a hard no.
Yeah. So those were animal activity, but it's not done yet because the Omen is very haunted. So the final category is car accidents, and it's only one accident, I guess.
Okay.
So on the Omen team was John Richardson, who was a special effects designer, and his assistant's name was Liz Moore. They were driving through the Netherlands to get to set when they got into a horrifying car accident, and Richardson escaped with minor injuries, but Moore was decapitated with what? Glass, which is significant because if you've seen the movie, the photographer in the movie is decapitated with a sheet of glass. So it's a slight parallel, but again, not really a coincidence.
When that scene happened in the movie, I couldn't but help think, like, is that how that would have worked?
Well,
was that like glass like sharpened?
Well,
dude, anything going fast enough,
and apparently it does happen.
I guess we kind of have our.
You can get decapitated. You can get decapitated by a barbell. That's like blunt. So
That is horrifying. I didn't expect the word decapitated to come out of your mouth. And then by glass, when that literally happens in the movie. Ugh,
And
heebie-jeebies.
it gets worse or spookier because the accident occurred on Friday the 13th on a sign that indicated that they were 66.6 kilometers away from the town of Omen. Omen.
What the fuck?
who finds this stuff out?
Yes, it's very pointed. It's like, this is not a
Like the
coincidence.
actual-
Like,
Side
that's
note,
the
I
universe lighting up.
realized. Yeah, the universe was saying something there. But I was reading that the Omen is what inspired the like popularity with the 666. Like obviously that is a thing otherwise, but that is where it
Really? Oh, I didn't know.
popped off from, was the Omen. Made that noticed by popular culture.
Yeah, I will say I didn't
thank
know
you.
the reasoning behind 666 until I watched this movie. I knew it was like the devil's number, but they actually break down the reasoning in the movie.
Yeah.
And
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't pay attention to this movie at all. I was so fucking bored. So frankly, I didn't really catch the reasoning in the movie, but I knew they explained it, and I knew that's where it.
I hope we don't have that many Omen lovers out there because it seems like
None of us
we
liked it.
all had bad things to say.
It's not that I didn't like the movie. I found the music to be, conflicting with what was happening, and sometimes the pacing felt very slow. But
Yes.
But other than that, like, it was a well done movie. Like, the concept was good. I don't think there was another movie like it out of that time, but I'm no movie buff by any means.
well, it was good enough
If you're
that they
just going
remade,
by,
so
yeah, that's true. If you're just going by Devil Baby,
Rosemary's
Baby was first.
mhm.
So it's not like a completely unique concept, although it's obviously not quite the same as Rosemary's Baby. I just think I'd rather watch Rosemary's Baby. I do feel like the pacing of this was really slow, so I had a really hard time paying attention, frankly. I also just thought there were some really weird decisions made by the dad.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't buy in or believe literally anything that you do or say because you're such a fuck. So that was really hard for me. Like, first, just adopting a baby without telling your wife.
Right.
And then when she's like, I want an abortion. And he refuses the abortion until she just miscarries. He's like, you have to keep it. That was so fucked up. And it was for like no good reason other than like, I said so.
Yeah.
Because I was told you would lose the baby, so fuck that. You are keeping the baby. So I couldn't do it. He made me so fucking mad.
Was that before or after he met with the priest in the park?
It was after.
It was after. Yeah, because the priest basically says, like, Damien will kill the baby and your wife and you, so just, like, get rid of the baby and kill Damien and get out of there. And then he goes home and his wife is like, I don't want any more kids. Is that cool with you? And he's like, sure. And then she goes, well, I'm pregnant, so can I get an abortion?
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then in like the next scene is like huffing and puffing and mad when her doctor is recommending it. And he tells the doctor no. And then obviously she loses the baby anyway and passes away. And obviously so does he. So it didn't really matter, but
Spoilers.
it's a
Sorry,
spoiler
I'll put it in the
podcast.
description.
It's always been a spoiler podcast.
True.
One kind of like plot point that was a little strange to me is the priest is like, he killed once, he will kill again. So the original like babysitter that committed suicide by hanging, okay, maybe he mind controlled her or something.
Yeah.
But like the mom and stuff, like the new nanny that came in, like she's all about it ahead of time. Like there was no convincing. Like that was a an already trained and conditioned human being that was stepping into there ready to go.
Well, that's the point.
So, but that wasn't like, my point being is like, it wasn't on Damien's orders, kill my mom. It was just like the assignment was already there.
I think it's meant to be like all of these deaths are just happening.
Surrounding him.
Yeah.
Because he is bad juju.
Right.
Because
Because
he
he's
is
the
Satan
Antichrist.
baby.
But then is that really his fault then?
I think that's part of the movie.
You're right.
Yeah.
He was just born into it.
That's true.
Not his fault. He didn't choose to be the Antichrist.
Well, he is a little fucker. Like, mom falls and he's just like,
And that's
See
the
ya.
upside down cross that he must bear.
Yep.
Good one. So how does the spookiness surrounding this film impact the viewing of the movie? I know for me, I didn't like the movie, so it makes me like it more. I guess. It makes it more interesting to me if you ignore the decapitation.
I'm going to enjoy watching the animal scenes again to see the real genuine terror
Yeah.
on their faces from the baboons. That's all I got.
Yeah.
You guys have thoughts?
I think the
Does it change
numbers with the car accident made it freakier to me. Like, the film feels spookier now with like the 666 birthmarks, knowing that a real death happened at that mile marker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That certainly makes it more spooky. Or conspiracy theory. They had the person killed there.
Oh my god, David.
Evidence 0.
So I think we can move on to our third and final film, which I think everyone and their mother has heard that there were some very creepy events occurring surrounding the filming. And that is The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a 1973 film directed by William Friedkin from a screenplay by William Peter Blatty. And so right off the bat, filming for this movie was supposed to be 85 days, and it took over 200.
Wow.
There were a lot of issues with
Worth
the film.
Worth it, because the end product is great. Very, very good movie.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of deaths associated with this film, so it's hard.
All right.
And injuries, so it's kind of hard to be like, it's worth it.
But
I'll
it's
get into
The
it.
Exorcist.
I know, it's an amazing
Yeah.
movie, so it's rough.
I don't know. Matt thought it was worth it after the first movie. Well, we talked about Poltergeist.
Well, the Poltergeist I also really, really like. But I mean, it's The Exorcist. This is like considered one of the most famous horror movies of all time.
I mean, it's the only horror movie to win Best Picture.
There you go. And not that matters that much, but I mean, it has extreme cultural impact. And I feel like most people didn't even know that much about all of the. But I feel like they didn't even market all of this stuff. They probably should have.
No, they definitely
they did market it. All right. Well, it was
there
1973. I didn't know.
A lot of fear coming out.
Well, I knew the whole like Catholic Church thing was marketed because they really didn't want this movie made, so that just like played into it.
Also, I'm pretty sure I'm a liar. This didn't win Best Picture, but it's the first horror movie to be nominated because I'm pretty sure Silence of the Lambs is the only one to win Best Picture.
Yeah. Well, this was the movie that everyone talked about. They marketed that people passed out or threw up.
Yes.
But it was actually just because of a procedure. They had like a medical procedure they did in the movie.
Mm.
They do like a spinal tap. They do something and blood squirts out of her. And that was what made people pass out.
See, when my mom saw this movie, she was 16, and she slept with her parents for weeks after she saw it. And after she said that to me, I've always been terrified of this movie, which I'm sure, up against current horror, which I love. It's probably not as intense, but it's hearing that at 16 she slept with her parents for weeks. I was always terrified of this movie.
I mean, in defense of the movie, it's modern. It still has some really good moments like that stand out still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like a masterpiece, right? Of like horror. Like it is definitely like considered in that upper echelon.
Linda Blair is insane in this. She's so scary.
Yeah, it's quite good. It holds up, Sarah. So
yeah, I mean,
definitely.
Speaking of the scene that you said made everyone puke and throw up, that's the angiography.
Yeah, I didn't know what it
where
was
they
called.
they use an X-ray to check blood vessels. So
Yeah.
that's the only procedure I'm familiar with in
But
the
they
movie.
they either actually, I don't know what they did.
Well, they actually had a professional a medical professional in those scenes,
okay.
not an actor. And there's a lot of information about him.
Oh, he killed somebody in real life, right?
Spoilers!
Oh, sorry. I knew that.
Okay, we'll just start there since Matt is just throwing shit out there. So this was going to be my big closer. But Paul Bateson, who is the technician who did that procedure, that scene, was convicted of murdering a journalist, Addison Verrill. Addison Verrill was a reporter who covered the film for Variety and was found dead in his apartment. He'd been beaten and stabbed, and there were some signs of struggle. At the time of Paul Bateson's arrest, the police had also been investigating a series of murders of gay men over the past 2 years that they believed were committed by the same person. During Bateson's murder trial, he had admitted to the serial murders while in jail, but there was no other record that definitively incriminated him for having committed what was then known as the bag murders. But he's still considered the most consistently proposed suspect. So we know he killed one person, the journalist, but he is still often described as a serial killer due to him, indicating that he had killed more than one person.
And this is the guy that did the angiograph in the movie?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So
sorry, I didn't realize that was your closer. It's okay. Everyone.
I thought that one was really fucked up. So, well, when it comes to the filming delays, filming right off the bat was screwed because a fire broke out on the set of the McNeil home, which was at the 20th Century Fox studio lot. The incident occurred during the period that they were filming the famous exorcism scene. And the only room that did not burn was Reagan's bedroom.
I think I have heard of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To be fair, and this makes it a little less creepy, the bedroom was separated from the rest of the set, so it makes sense that the fire destroyed the rest of the set, but didn't necessarily reach that. But extremely creepy that is when they were filming The Exorcism, and that the only room that survived was the room of The Exorcism. It paused filming for a total of 6 weeks.
Wow, that's a long time. Well, I guess that's why it took 200 days.
Yeah, you got to rebuild all the sets, right? And then you got to...
Another set... Check. Yeah. Another set was damaged by a sprinkler system. I didn't get too much info on that. I'm not sure what the cause of that was, but that was separate from the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the beginning where they are filming in Iraq and there's the Pazuzu statue was accidentally shipped to Hong Kong instead of Iraq, causing a 2-week delay.
Oh, wow. That's a weird thing to happen.
How you go from Iraq to Hong Kong, I don't know. But what a lovely thing to go to the wrong country.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet
want that statue.
It was just simply the wrong boat.
Mm.
That would be my bet.
Yeah, I feel like that's a decent theory. I don't know what actually happened, though.
That or it was actually accidental and somebody screwed up, and then they're just like, oops, yeah, we don't know how that happened.
Spooky.
Super spooky. Like, oh, I was smoking a cigarette under the sprinkler and it went off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I think those two can definitely be explained away by a mistake that someone made or things malfunction. And this was the 70s, so shit happens. I'm not surprised to hear that there'd be malfunctions on sets. It's just the fact that there were so many incidences that happened to occur within a very small period of time to delay filming or resulted in people being injured or passed away. That is interesting. So on to our next category, which is injuries. These two people, their names weren't listed, but a carpenter cut off his thumb during filming, And a lighting technician lost a toe. And that was 2 different accidents. Again, I don't know the details surrounding those. When I went to look it up, there weren't a lot of info. But 2 people lost some.
I wonder if the lighting attendant lost his toe, like by dropping something really heavy on it. The carpenter, like that one, feels very self-explanatory how that one probably happened.
Yeah.
It just sounds like this was the movie set from hell, though.
Yes.
Like, haunted or not. Just like everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And I know it gets worse because I know more about this one.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries, though. A lot of malpractice.
Yeah. This just sounds like super unlucky.
Yes. There were a lot of them. There were also 2 back injuries. So, Ellen Burstyn, who plays Mom. Do you remember her character's name? Because I'm totally blanking.
No, I do not.
Ellen Burstyn. She had a back injury during filming. During the crucifix scene where Regan is possessed and she whacks Ellen Burstyn in the face, they were supposed to have a wire attached to Burstyn's waist that would rapidly pull her against the wall.
It was like a winch. Right, it was like a cable on a winch.
Yes. And after 3 tries, Burstyn said to the director, "Billy, he's pulling too hard. Ask him to lighten up." On the 4th try, she was injured because they yanked her far too hard, and they kept rolling. So she's like screaming and crying in the take, and that is what they left in the film. She fractured her coccyx, and it left her unable to film for 2 weeks and on crutches for the rest of the shoot.
Wow.
Now, and did she have she had a permanent injury from that, right?
Yes, she had a permanent injury. Still to this day. And Linda Blair, who plays Regan, also had a back injury due to filming. She fractured her lower back while doing a convulsion scene. So she was convulsing in a harness. And she screamed, "Please make it stop. It hurts. It burns." But it was very similar to what was scripted for her to say, so no one stopped the scene. And again, that is the footage that they used in the movie. She says, quote, "That's the footage they used in the movie where I'm crying my eyes out because they are brutally damaging my back." Again, it fractured her lower back and led to a lifelong struggle with scoliosis.
What was that scene again? What were they doing?
She's convulsing.
Oh, okay.
So the way they filmed it, they had her in some sort of harness that they were pulling and shaking.
We got to get some safe words up in here.
Yeah,
yeah. Film safety in the 70s was not up to snuff, which is unsurprising.
It's funny because the lack of constraints in some ways has led to some really amazing moments in film, but for every amazing moment in film you also have 2 or 3 of these moments where an actor is just put in a really terrible situation and gets injured.
Yeah.
So
not great. So now we're into the deaths that occurred during the filming. In the documentary The Fear of God, 25 Years of the Exorcist, Ellen Burstyn, who again played Regan's mother, said 9 people died during production. Other reports say 4, but one of the articles that I read had at least 5 listed. So,
I mean, I feel like she would know.
The number. Yeah, you'd think that the lead in the movie would be kind of aware. So, Jack McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, died of influenza during filming, or right after filming. Deaths among the crew included the night watchman dying. I'm not sure how. The operator of the refrigeration system that kept Regan's room cold also passed away. And the assistant cameraman's newborn child passed away. I believe the lead actor who plays the priest, Max von Sydow, I believe it was one of his family members died after his first day of filming, and he had to leave. And Linda Blair's grandfather also passed away during filming, which involved another break in filming. And finally, Vasiliska Maleros, I might have said that wrong and I apologize, who played the mother of Father Karis, passed away during production. She was 89, so she was older. I don't know her cause of death, but again, that's another person who was an actor in the film that passed.
Yeah, that's a lot of people for one film. And plus the injuries, plus the fire, that's a lot.
And again, like a lot of these things can be attributed to other incidences, like poor practices on sets, but it adds up to be extremely concerning, and hence why there are documentaries about how horrifying this process was. So that is all I got on The Exorcist.
So one other additional, and this isn't really haunting, but something that freaks me out about this movie, is that the Catholic Church was very against this movie being released, which I think really acknowledges one that, hey, they were doing exorcisms, right? And they still do them. I think they're considered some kind of rite. And so it's acknowledging that we do them, acknowledging that they are similar to what's happening in this movie. And so that whole thing kind of freaks me out, and it makes me more believing, because for them to try to shut it down as oh, these things do happen. And these people performing these exorcisms, whether they're real or not, believe that they're actually removing demons.
Speaking of exorcisms, and this movie being called The Exorcist, they did call in a priest to exorcise the set after a lot of this stuff happened, and he was like, I can't actually perform an exorcism, I don't have permission to do that, but I will bless the set. So he blessed the set, and quote, nothing else happened on the set after the blessing. So everything creepy stopped.
Well, that's good.
Supposedly.
Positive.
According to legend.
Spooky.
Yeah, this one is I think the most interesting of the three.
Why?
Just there's so much stuff happening. The subject material is very specific to what was going on. And I think it's just everything that could go wrong did.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether that was a haunting or not, it just everything went wrong, and it's a cursed production. And then you also get a once in a lifetime movie out of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very history in the making here. I mean, it's the first ever horror film to be nominated for an Oscar, which they think is because word of mouth spread so much about this because of the subject material being so out there, and because of everything occurring on the set, there was just a lot of talk about the movie, so they contribute that to why it actually got the nomination.
Oh, that's not giving it enough credit.
I know, but I think because it was just so present in the media and
that it's
the
going to have
public
that
eye.
popularity.
Yeah.
I just think to call this it only got there because it was popular, so bullshit. There's a lot that
it's a great
went
movie
in to make this movie as good as it was.
It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And they're still making more today. Didn't they just come out with a new Exorcist last year?
Exorcist Believer was apparently not that great, but they did bring Ellen Burstyn back, which is really cool.
I got no interest, but that's just me.
Yeah.
It's apparently not very connected besides Ellen Burstyn coming back for 2 seconds.
The whole vibe I got from that trailer for that movie was, it's an exorcism, but now there are 2 possessed girls. Ooh. Really upping the ante here, guys.
Yeah.
Exorcist 2, Electric Boogaloo, twice the exorcism.
Cool. So that's all of them, right? That's all we're covering?
Yep, all 3. What is your favorite of the 3 films, Matt?
Oh, that's really hard. I've watched Poltergeist most recently. Well, that's not true. I watched Omen, but I didn't watch all of it. I watched Poltergeist most recently. I really loved it. The Exorcist is an absolute classic, though, and it's hard to go against it.
I think The Exorcist is definitely the scariest, but I have recency bias again with Poltergeist. It was
That's
so
kind of
fun.
how I'm feeling. I really thought Poltergeist was so fun.
Yeah.
And I want to call it my favorite of the 3, but I know that The Exorcist is if we're going to say objectively
the best,
best, I don't know. No such thing as objective.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Definitely The Omen's the worst. It just isn't well paced. And I think, saying Poltergeist moves slower, but it helps build makes sense. The Omen just the pacing doesn't make sense to me. And I really am biased from my negative soundtrack experience as well.
Yeah, Omen was probably the worst for me as well. Mainly due to the pacing. I like the theme of the project overall, but I just can't get past the pacing and the music for it. But oh my gosh, what was the White Screen?
Poltergeist.
Thank you, Poltergeist. I can't believe I had a brain fart there like that. Poltergeist was nice. I enjoyed kind of like the paranormal team that came in there too. That was like trying to figure it out and applied like kind of like a science to it. So that was neat. But the first I think is going to go to the Exorcism, just for the impact that movie made. But at the same time, there's a lot of crap that went along with it though. Like for every nice thing that happened in that movie, I think there was like 3 or 4 bad things.
Literally. Any other follow-up thoughts before we close out?
I got nothing.
Nice. Me either.
Let them plug themselves again.
Yeah, so remind our listeners where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Paranormal in Pennsylvania, and find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Again, Horror Hour with the Hannas drops on Wednesdays, and we drop on Thursdays, so you can create yourself a spooky week listening to a different pod every day.
Woot woot.
Wheat strong.
Love that.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on again. As always, very fun. I was glad to do something a little different on our pod and kind of mix both of our expertise, quote unquote, in one episode. We hope to have you on again soon, and we will also be on PIP shortly as well, so keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, binge all our content. Again, I'm Hannah.
I'm Matt Hanna.
Thanks for listening.
Make movies horny again.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannas. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannas on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!